What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on a recent podcast that I ran across. It was an interview, and the interview was between I don't know who the host was, but I know the guest on this podcast was Phil Jackson. And so the host was asking Phil Jackson questions about his relationship with Scottie Pippen. And as you remember, it's like Scottie Pippen said he made some really serious claims against Phil Jackson. And these claims that Scottie Pippen made against Phil Jackson really hurt it hurt his feelings. Well, he said that he was very disappointed by the claims that Scottie made, right? And another person who feelings was also hurt because of it was Michael Jordan. Now, Michael Jordan is very loyal to Phil Jackson. He's very loyal. And Michael Jordan said that he was hurt by the statements that Scottie Pippen made about Phil Jackson. And I can see, Michael Jordan feeling that way. Um, he's not Michael Jordan is not like the kind of person who really, tells how he feels a lot. I think what's most important to Michael Jordan is loyalty. And so and with people like Michael Jordan, like that is the way they really show how they care about people is through their loyalty. And so if Mike is loyal to you, then that's how you know that Mike really cares about you. And I think Michael Jordan cared about Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson. And so that's why basically with what Scottie has been saying about Michael Jordan over the years, Mike really don't really respond to that because Mike he's loyal, you know what I mean? He likes Scottie Pippen and he has a different way of showing it. But that's what the situation is with Mike and Scottie. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the audio from this interview that Phil Jackson gave about the relationship between him and Scottie Pippen. Also, what Michael Jordan thought about some of the things that Scottie Pippen said, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna give my reaction.
Over the years, it feels like your relationship with Scottie Pippen has been complicated. Can you expound upon that?
Well, I was assistant coach when Scotty came into the game, and I played with him and against him one on one, and tried to help his game out a little bit. And I was big in promoting Scotty because we had Scotty coming off the bench, and I had to sub in as a coach for Doug Collins when he got thrown out of a game. And that was like the immediate thing I did. I put Scotty in the game and up the pressure defense because this is one of the best defensive players ever to play the game. So I had a lot of admiration for him and had a lot of contact with him. He was the on-court guy that I alerted all the time when defensive strategies would come, double teams, traps, etc. Whistle, hey Scotty, it's time, whatever. So yeah, it was shocking to hear the comments that he made. But he had a situation that was coming off the bench, not being able to play the last few seconds of a basketball game that was critical, and it made a big change in his life. Michael called the next day from baseball and said, I don't know if Scotty will ever be able to live this down. And I think it's been a hard thing to live down, refusing to go in a ball game because things didn't go your way.
Michael,
Dan, I wanted to add something briefly with that. I thought it was really poignant. Phil's kept a good relationship with Michael. I've seen him occasionally, but we don't chat as much as he and Phil might. And when some of those things came out, and we talked about this in the book that Phil had asked Michael about that, and Michael really expressed regret. I thought it was really poignant that Michael told Phil that he feels terrible about losing the relationship with Scottie, a 20, 25-year relationship that was closer than a lot of people thought. And so, it struck me as really poignant that Michael felt a loss about this.
All right, so you heard it right. Michael Jordan was, he's hurt because like Phil Jackson and the other guys said that, they had a long relationship with Scottie Pippen, and they went through a lot of things. I think Scottie Pippen, in my opinion, he don't realize like how important he was to the success of the Chicago Bulls. And I think part of the reason why it may be like some resentment that Scottie holds against Mike. But at least watching the Bulls and then watching Mike talk about Scottie, you can see that Mike cared more about Scottie than probably any of the other teammates that he had, and so I just think that Scottie probably, just like I said, the resentment that he had, he thought maybe he should have had a bigger role or get more credit for their success. Most people, because Mike is in a lot of people's opinion, Mike is the GOAT. So Mike gets the lion's share of all of the accolades and and everything. But Michael Jordan also acknowledged that, like Scottie was a big part of the success of the Chicago Bulls, and he don't think that they probably could have won, as much without Scottie. So with Scottie, saying some of the things he did, I think, that hurts him and Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan feelings and Phil Jackson feelings, right? And a lot of people can't see, couldn't understand, like, why would Scottie make these statements about Phil Jackson, or why would he make say some of the things that he said against Michael Jordan when, they had so much success together. You don't see that with like Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas or Kareem and Magic. You don't see that with those guys, man. Isaiah probably get a lot of the credit, but most people who watch basketball and Detroit fans, they know how important Joe Dumars was to that team, for the Pistons to win. Same thing with Magic and Kareem. Like they, you know, people make a big deal about Magic, but Kareem, was basically, in his later years, it was Kareem's presence that made a big difference in the success of the Lakers. So, I just think that Scottie Pippen must have some type of self, like low self-esteem type thing going on, whereas though he feel like, people think that Mike basically carried him and the rest of the Chicago Bulls, which is not true. And I mean, Dennis Rodman get a lot of credit for it, for the success they had, especially, I mean, with those last 3 rings. Then you got Ron Harper, so you had a lot of people who contributed. But by Mike being the face of the leader on the team and the face of the league, he gets a lot of the credit. And I mean, it is what it is. Scottie Pippen, he just jumped out on the deep end with some of the statements that he made. Because if he really felt that way about Phil Jackson and felt the kind of way about Michael Jordan, then why didn't he just leave? He had a couple times, contract his contract was up and he could have left the team a lot sooner. He could have left the team while Michael Jordan was still there and Phil Jackson and went somewhere else, but he didn't do that. So that's to me, it's just sad for Scottie Pippen at the, all that he contributed to the Chicago Bulls, for him to go out this way. Um, and just really his legacy, he really just affects his legacy when he does stuff like, some of the statements that he made. Now, lately, it seems like Scottie has kind of some of the things that he said about Mike, he's kind of like softened up on some of the criticism of Mike. But I don't know. I think that hopefully with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and also Phil Jackson, that they can repair their relationship. I don't know if Scottie Pippen is interested in it. I bet you that Michael Jordan will probably just let bygones be bygones. I think if it was anybody else besides Scottie Pippen, Mike probably would have wrote him off, but not Scottie Pippen. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.